welcome back to my station. Today I'm going to talk about the production process. And this is really the most exciting part for all of my clients, and what they're anticipating the most is, when do I get my actual product that I can sell? So stay tuned till the end of the video. I'm going to talk about all the steps that are taken with the factory, when the client needs to be involved in the process, the timeline that it takes to do all of these things. Your perfect prototype, pre-production sample approved, and you're ready to go to production. This is the most exciting part of the whole design process for all of my clients. They're super eager to start selling their product. So, first step, the factory will contact the fabric supplier, fabric mill, and place the order for your production fabric. And that buy will be based on the quantity that you place for your production order. Since most of my clients are startup entrepreneurs and brands, I've negotiated with my factories to where they could do as little as 200 units per style. What does that mean? That means that they can get one shirt style, 200 units, usually 3 colorways. You'll see this particular client, they did black, a pink, and a navy for their launch collection. This is a women's scrub collection. The factory, based on the buy, will order the fabric. Usually the fabric minimums, even in the US, are 1 bolt of fabric per color, per fabric article. Meaning, for like a niche stretch fabric, that would be anywhere from 50 to 70 yards of fabric, depending on the stretch of the goods. Factory will order that, secure it. While that's going on, the factory will be doing the grading. The grading is where they take your sample size garment, which is usually a smaller medium, US size 6, and based on the client's buy meaning the sizes that they want to buy, they will grade that one sample size up and down. Let's say your sample size is a small. The factory will then, after we give the grade rule, which I'm going to talk about in a second, will grade it up and down. So they'll go from a medium to a large to an extra large, and they'll grade it down from a small to an extra small. A typical grade rule in the industry for standard sizing would be 1 inch to 1.5 inches between sizes. Once you get up into the larger sizes, I would say XL, 1X, 2X, 3X, you might want to do more of a grade rule 1.5 to 2 inches. When I say that, I mean between sizes. So if you're going from a small to a medium, you're going to grade up 1 inch between sizes, meaning your waist measurement would go up all around 1 inch. Across your shoulder measurement would go up 1 inch. A lot of brands also like to grade in the lengths. You wouldn't grade as much in the lengths. Also, depending on fabric shrinkage, like if you're doing a cotton garment, you know it's going to shrink after wash. You might want to add extra to your length in the production process, anticipating that that could happen with that type of fabric. So the grading is usually done actually before they purchase the fabric. This way they know exactly how much fabric yield they're going to need. Now, a little thing that happens before that is what we call the marker. The marker is sort of like a, I guess, architect's blueprint of how the house is laid out. The marker lays out each piece of the garment. For example, the sleeve of it, the bodice front, the bodice back. It gets laid out, and based on the client's buy, let's say 200 units in 4 different sizes, they'll put that into a digital computer after your pattern's digitized, and it will lay out each piece in each size, and that gets laid out over the fabric. So that calculates exactly the fabric yield that they're going to need. They'll use that yield to buy your fabric. From that point is where I step in and I help my clients out, and I work with them to create all of their branding materials. And you'll see here, the finished product has the hang tag. They always ask me, how does my product come? Well, what's usually included in the factory price is a poly bag like this. And then you'll see here, the sticker, sorry, it's hard to read. It'll usually say on the outside the size, the color, and the style name or number. Why is that important? Well, that tells you, as the owner of your company, when you get an order online, let's say, and you need to ship your product, you don't have to open up this bag looking for the size and the details. It's easily printed right there for you, so you just grab and ship it to your customer. Very important. When it comes to the branding and labeling, what I do for each client is I will take their logo, and I always like to stress that we need the logo in the best quality format, which is typically .ai, Illustrator, vector file. Why are vector files good? Because with a vector file, you're able to, sorry, I gotta get this to zoom in. You're able to zoom the image in and out, and the quality's not gonna change. So for this particular client, you see here the scrub label. So I designed this for her, the specs, the size of the card, the width of the paper. Usually on the back, they'll put their Instagram handle, their website link, and this is more the basic type of tag that's included in my packages for the clients. And this has a nice wax cord. Most customers go for this type of fancy safety pin here because it doesn't create holes in the garments like the old, Swift tacks do that you see in a lot of retailers. So that has her logo, any pertinent information the client wants on there. Sometimes they have a slogan or something for their brand, that can go on there as well. Then on the inside, by law, especially when you're importing into the country, you have to have the country of origin on your garment. You have to have the properties of the fabric, the content. You have to have the care and wash instructions. And what I found with my clients, because a lot of people don't want to put, if they're producing with me in Asia, they don't want to put made in China because they think that it has a bad connotation. So what we do that makes it fun and creative is we'll put on there, let's see, can you see? We'll put designed in the USA. This again has her logo. This tag usually has the size on there as well. And then on the reverse side is where we'll put made in China, country of origin, and the wash instructions. And I like to keep it the simpler the better, because when you get all these types of symbols in 10 different languages like some of the bigger brands do, it's really confusing. And at the end of the day, let's just cut to the chase. How do I wash this? And most people cut these out. So I tell clients a lot of times to do a separate woven label to put it in the back of the garment and keep the care tag separate, because they do get cut out. And oh, this client is exciting because they actually have an embroidery on the outside of the garment. And this is another thing in the process of the branding. When a client places the buy, they usually haven't seen their garment made in all the different colors, because they don't want to pay to have all these different samples made. They just want to get the approved sample, usually in one colorway, and then order the other colors. So because of that, I need to work with the factory to come up with the embroidery color and the placements. So this particular client, she wanted, I'll show you the different colorways. She wanted her embroidery to be matching to the body color. This is the body is the main color of the garment. She wanted hers to be matching. Here's one on the pant in the black. It's more subtle. It's a larger logo, but it's more subtle. So I worked with the factory to pick those thread colors, to get the placement just right on the garments. I've created all the tags, labels, and the branding for the client. The client approves it. I send it over to the factory. Then they will reach out to the tag label suppliers and they will order these for the production. Usually the minimums on the tags are 1,000 per style. So they will have extras from time to time, which they just keep on hand for future orders. Then after all that's done, the factory will cut all of the pieces of the garment. From going back to that marker that I spoke about, they'll lay it out on a big table, piled high of fabric with a cutting machine, and the cutters will cut everything before the production starts. So everything will get cut, and then, and it's really cool because I've been to China probably over 30 times, and I've been to these massive production floors, just thousands of workers and loud, and the machines are going. And what you'll see, and it's so super cool, is they will work on per day one section of your garment. For example, on the pant, they'll spend one day just sewing the legs. So you'll have 50 workers, leg, leg, leg. They'll sew the leg, then it'll go in a bin, then it'll go to the next place. Then that worker will just sew the zippers all day, zipper, zipper, zipper. Then the next day, they'll do all the waistbands. So it's an assembly line, right? That's what makes it so fast and efficient. And I'll have a lot of clients say to me, well, why can't I get some samples sent to me from the production floor when they finish them? Because it doesn't work that way. It's not like a prototype where they're gonna cut and sew your whole garment and one garment's done, then they move on to the next. This is a process, okay? They go, and like I mentioned, they'll do each section of the garment. And these literally go into bins, they get moved from different parts of the factory. And the interesting thing, which I find is really cool, each worker there typically has a specialty in one thing. One worker will be really good at attaching the hardware. One, I'm not saying one, but the little section, they'll have one group of workers will be really good at attaching zippers, and that's their specialty, and they'll just do zip, 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 zipper all day. Okay, and most of them don't speak English, by the way, so a lot of stuff has to get translated down, into several languages for them, for everyone, Cantonese and Mandarin. If there's a Hong Kong office, it gets passed on so everyone can understand. That's why you cannot get all these different colorways off the floor, because they're not making one garment at a time. Since, let's say, your garment is pieced together, it's sewn together, at that point, when that's done, is when they'll start to add what I like to call the bells and whistles. Meaning, let's say on this one, it's the drawstring. They'll put the drawstring through. Once your garment is sewn, let's say if it's a denim garment, they'll wash and do really cool vintage effects on the denim. So that's done at the end of the process, okay? And then even the embroidery, that's added at the final hour, okay? The tags, they're usually added, well, depending on, like, this tag, I'll show you, is here on the inside. So the day that they're doing the sides of the shirt, they need to have the tags there. So this is why it's important, like I mentioned, the timeline, that I get the factory all the branding and labeling stuff before they start production. That way, 2 weeks for the supplier to make it, it arrives, so they have everything there on the floor. They will not start production until they have everything that they need to start production, because one little hiccup can throw off that whole assembly line. And then, of course you have delays, which my clients, they don't like those. It happens, but that'll be in another video where I'm gonna talk about things that can happen in the production process, issues, and of course, my favorite thing to do is to fix all of those things and make sure the machine is well oiled and moving again. Okay, next thing, I don't want to miss anything. Okay, so they've put all those elements together, your garment, and trust me, it doesn't look chic. The factory will then send me pictures, and these garments will be piled up, they'll be in bins. They're not ready to be packaged at that point, okay? What happens is, then everything goes to the quality control, which is usually my direct person that I'm working with in the whole development process. He or she will inspect, or we call it a top of production sample. So they'll pull pieces out of production. It's called a TOP. They'll pull out the tops and they'll take pictures for me, take video. I'll communicate with them usually over WhatsApp. They start blowing up my phone 10 o'clock at night. Yes, I don't get a lot of sleep now. And then I hear from them early in the morning, usually because of the time change. But we'll talk about little details, and if anything is off at that point, I can weigh in and we can try to fix anything that could be incorrect. Usually it could be a stitch color. It's not a construction thing at that point, it's usually more of a quality thing. Okay, so they'll do the quality control. Once that is done, they then steam or press everything. It goes to another section of the factory because you don't want all these wrinkly garments folded up, right? So they'll steam everything. They will pin on all the hang tags. They will put the corresponding stickers to the corresponding size and color of your garment. They'll fold them super nicely. I'm not great at this, but they'll fold them so they fit perfectly in these poly bags. And there are standard sizes of these for tops, bottoms, jackets, dresses. And they'll put it perfectly like this, fold it up, usually with your hang tag flipped this way so you can see the logo. And what they'll do is they'll put them by color, and like this, let's say. They'll put them by color, and they'll put them in boxes by color, typically. And then they'll contact me and they'll say, okay, production is ready to ship. Usually my clients like to have things come over by sea freight versus air, because air is a lot more expensive. It's faster to get here to the States unless they have some sort of order that they have to fulfill. They usually wait the 20 days for it to come on one of those big vessels, those big containers that you see arriving at ports. That's how these garments come over here. So what the factory has to do, and they're so good at this, I mean, they do this every day, all day. They wait for a container to be full, or they know based on other customers when and where they're gonna fill that container. So they'll say to me, there's a ship leaving next week, Wednesday. Your client's garments will be on that ship. So what they give me at that time is they'll give me a FedEx number. Well, that FedEx number really doesn't mean anything until those goods arrive here to the US. Because at that point, they're out in the middle of the sea on this vessel, and they have to arrive to the port. So what happens when they arrive to the port is customs will then inspect everything. And now, because of this global crisis we're having, there is definitely a little bit of a delay once the goods are getting here to the US, because there's so much coming in, less workers, you know, but in a normal time period, 20 days for the goods to get here off the ship, 3 days, I would say, for customs to review, to get to your package. They'll review, inspect everything, that it is what it is. Then it'll go to what I call a freight forwarder. And we all know FedEx, okay? So it's usually FedEx that seems to be the most affordable. It'll go in FedEx boxes, and that's where that tracking number comes in handy, and then it will ship to my client. Some ports in the US are more popular than others. Miami, where I'm located, is a very popular international port, so no problem for the goods to come here. Sometimes it'll go to the California port. Seems to take a little bit longer if it has to ship back to the other side of the US, to the East Coast, let's say. But typically my factories are good about shipping to the port that is closest to where, you know, my client is located. That's the nutshell, and you'll ask, okay, how long does it take for the production time? So that usually takes, I would say, 3 weeks max, unless there's any sort of hiccups in the road, a supplier sending the wrong fabric. Sometimes when they're unrolling the fabric, they'll see that there are damaged goods, which happens, so you'll have a wastage, and they'll cut those goods away. Maybe they have to, in order to supplement the order, they'll have to order more goods. Things like that will happen. Those are some of the little hiccups. Let's say the supplier will send the wrong color by accident because it looks similar to another color. There's all these variables in the supply chain. So it's really just having professional eyes like myself, my team overseeing all of this and making sure the correct stuff is arriving there in front of the workers so that they're sewing the correct product. That's super exciting. In a nutshell, the production process. And really, once my clients have signed off on the pre-pro, and I'll send them little pictures here and there of the branding and things as they get done, they really don't have to worry. They just have to sit back and wait for the product to arrive. A lot of them at this time are getting their websites created so that they're ready to sell, or even take sometimes pre-sale orders before the product actually arrives in the States. It's an arduous process, long and very stressful, but the good thing is I love what I do. And when I was in corporate, what was different is I was really involved in the design product development end of it. And I would go to China, I would oversee the samples, I would even get a little bit involved in the cost negotiation to get them down in price, because when you're in corporate, margin is everything, down to 3 cents. But what I love having this business is, what I love most about having this business is I really get to be involved from the design concept through all the technical, and then all the way through the production, and working with my factories one-on-one on the production. It's a lot. I wear many hats, but it's almost like birthing a child. And I would say it typically takes 9 to 10 months to do all of this. So it really is a special thing, and I enjoy the process. And my clients, they all will say to me, well, I don't know, you're gonna have to teach me. They get stressed out because they don't know. And honestly, don't feel bad. If you're not from the industry, you're not gonna know the process out the gate. It takes time. I would say once you've done your first run of production and you've gone through all of it, you get very humbled, and you have, I think, a lot more appreciation for the process and the workers and just all those little fine details that go into everything. And then once you've gone through one production run, it's like, you're almost like, you know what you're doing at that point. I mean, you know what to look for. You definitely understand the timeline. If you have any more questions, I'm going to put a link below for one-on-one. I'll do a 1-hour call with potential clients. I'll review everything with you. You have more questions, having doubts about getting started, I'll walk you through all of that. I offer the design of just the little elements, getting your hang tags, labels, all of that done. Have it in a nutshell, the production process. And no fear, the expert is here. Reach out. In the description below, I'm going to put a link there to have a one-on-one consultation with me if you're considering starting your own fashion line. And I really do soup to nuts the whole process from design to production. I've been doing this for over 2 decades. I hate to say that. And I've worked in so many different categories of apparel and manufacturing. So I really have a diverse background in it, whereas a lot of designers from the industry do not. Please help share the word. You have a friend, family member, anyone looking to get in the industry, please share the video, like, subscribe, and until I see you again, please be well, stay safe at home. Ciao everybody, stay inspired.